Hello everyone and welcome to a Formula 1 2022 video. My first one, and I don't know if I'll do many more. It has been a while since I've had any racing games, any racing footage on the channel. And this is a game I've been playing for about a couple of months now, maybe about once a week if that. Some weeks I play like 2-3 days and then I go like 2 weeks without playing. Like the time that the footage that I got on this one, I hadn't actually played for nearly 3 weeks because I was moving at the time. And this bit here was actually new. So you get to upgrade the car throughout your career mode and stuff, upgrade certain parts. And this screen is like, wow, what the hell is going on here? Because with new regulations for the following season, it looks like some parts need to be adapted. So that was interesting. That was not meant to be in a video. I just wanted to record my normal weekend of Formula 1 the way I normally do it, and I had to go slightly off track because of this. Normally I'd be looking at parts here to upgrade rather than looking at parts to adapt, as it was the case this time. It's not too bad. Good thing at some point, and we still have some races left in the season. And literally here I was just figuring out what do you do. So saying, showing the parts that are apparently unprotected, and we can actually adapt them. It is annoying that it also uses points. We've got some unlocked upgrades and we've got some supplied upgrades, which is nice, although 5 upgrades when we're towards the end of the season. Luckily I don't need them anymore, so that's fine. Got the championship. So that's alright. So we can adapt that one. Or with 1,300 points, so you can see on the bottom right, so down to 832. So you gain those points by getting results and doing other stuff during the career mode. Parts to develop are more expensive than this. As you can see, one there costs 1,200, but since these ones are only to adapt, they actually made it somewhat of a fair price. And I'm not sure if I managed to do any other adaptation with these 220 points. Not enough for any of these. I should have enough before the end of the season to adapt all the parts, so that's not too bad, but it just means I'm not going to develop anything else during the season. And now we are finally into the race weekend. And luckily for us, this weekend it's sunny all the way throughout. So the first practice session I do go to the track, and I try to do the development, try to get to the available development boosts on that first practice. Sometimes I have to take it to second practice. On this one, I think I definitely took to the second or the third one, because I kinda messed up a little. And we are in Japan, which means it's the Suzuka circuit, a racetrack that I've liked in most games, whether F1 games or Gran Turismo. Don't think I ever played it in any other game that I can think of. Maybe Real Racing 3, I'm not sure if it was there. Now this one we're actually racing, and normally I try to use the full 30 minutes of the session.
We're going to be logging some extra data during this session. Nothing you need to worry about, but as we have some new parts on the car, we'll just confirm they're performing to spec.
So when we start, looks like all were on the
lack of rubber out on track, so take it easy for the first couple of laps.
all bits, all programs are on a medium tire this time. Sometimes you've got a little bit of a mix, but this actually makes it easy because you don't feel the difference when you change from one program to the other, because you're on the same tire. Now the problem here is I hadn't raced for 3 weeks, and even before that I never raced. This was never a game that I've been playing every day, so it took me a little bit to get used to. The car isn't exactly the best, because I'm doing the team owner career mode. So yes, I do get to race as well, but I am also the team owner, so I do manage all the all the budgets and contracts and stuff like that we might have a look towards the end of the video. Now this outlap on the first one, I always like doing that because it gives me a feel for the track, and then the other programs often I just do go straight out. As you can see here, I definitely needed the extra time on the track. The engine, as you can see on the bottom right, is red, or whatever that means, you know, mechanical thingy. And that's because I've got the parts, I've got bad old parts from previous races, because I'm towards the end of the season and I'm on the last set of good parts, and I'm trying to avoid penalties, so I'll do the practice sessions with all the parts, and then qualifying and the race with the best that I've got, or with newer parts if you start doing that at the beginning of the season. Now, I've only been doing this for 2 races, so the last race was the first one and I messed up. That's why I've got the bad parts now in the car already. I didn't have to change them because I went to change them too late at the qualifying on the previous race, so I actually had to do the race with them. And I just about won, but I did have to use some flashbacks to get it. So here we go, it's a 5-lap program, and this is the beginning of the lap, which it's really, I needed some practice around there. This corner is absolutely terrible, and I kept getting them wrong throughout the weekend. Obviously I did improve a lot, but still, these fast corners, I could never get proper handling with the car. But you can only get better when you start so bad. That's the positive thing. I've always liked these corners here over the years. Even when I was really bad at them, I always loved these corners. This one I was never a huge fan of, even though it's often an overtaking chance. It was never my favorite. Yeah, I was never good at getting this corner right either, whether it was in Gran Turismo or other games. Which is weird, because, you know, the amount of laps that I've done on this track over the years, especially back on the Gran Turismo 5 and Gran Turismo 6 days, and you'd think I'd know that. This corner here, is it the 120 or 130R? I should know that. Yeah, the chicane definitely messing it up. But that's okay, we're only here to get used to the car and the track and get as much as we can on the training program. We've done the fuel on this one, and we've done the clean lap as well. The racing line, I hardly ever get the racing line done. I'm not too worried about that. We'll use the autopilot later on to unlock that one, either FP2 or FP3. And this second lap, so improved a little bit there. Here going off the track, getting a little used to it. I'm playing the game on easy with some assists. There are some assists, like the braking assist is really getting on my nerves at this point. I really need to remove it. So I might remove that before the end of the season. And then for the next season, either I will make the game more difficult or I will remove even more assists. Because I haven't liked racing with assists since Gran Turismo 5, but obviously you need to keep the practice going. If you only play the game once in a blue moon, it's just so much harder to get used to. And if you spend years without playing racing games, it's even worse. So I had to have a chance, I had to start with some assists. I did first play F1 2022 on my mate's PS4, and this is the PS5 version, but I started the game on the PS4, and there I was actually doing the career mode without assists, without most of the assists, and it was fine, but I had to put the game even easier. So now I think I'm around the 30s on difficulty, so it's still on the easy scale. But it is a lot harder in races, so you do actually get some fights in races. That's why I had to keep the bloody... I didn't have to keep, but if I want to do less rewinds in a racetrack during the race, then I needed to keep some assists on. And this third lap I was doing much better. Still way off the racing line, but compared to the first two laps, definitely an improvement. And this bit here just feels so satisfying. And here when you get the on a power early, so nice. And I was getting quite, I was feeling at one with the car, which is about right. I remember when I started playing the game on the PS4, I used to be going like straight to the race. I do one lap qualifying and then straight into the race. And it was only up to lap 3 in the race that I was getting used to the car. So this is why I decided then on the PS5 to make the game a little bit harder, but do some practice, because one, you need to do, you could really do with the points to develop into your car. You get them from doing these practice bits, these practicing programs in pre-practice. And you know, it really helps you getting used to the car and getting used to the track, especially on tracks that you don't know. And in my case, I think there's about 4 race tracks here that I've never raced on, so it proved really useful.
Super job so far. We're getting great data. Stay focused.
Basically, it takes me about, you know, I use the 5-lap race, and here we just skip to the end of the program to lap number 5. So normally my weekends are, you know, the free practice is probably twice as long as the race itself, because the race is only 5 laps.
Complete and a job well done. We got some excellent data with that run, so come on back to the garage and I can take you through the numbers.
And I end up doing a lot more than that on the practice. And there we just skip straight to the garage instead of going around. We do lose more time that way. The game is not as fast doing that, because that will be a cooldown lap going back to the pits. And that's what you know, the autopilot does, kind of thing. But you know, we just want to race. We're gonna move on to the next one. We should have time for that. We should always have time to do all 3 programs unless you start messing about. And this, so for this one, we go straight into the flying lap, because we already are used to the car, used to the track, and we are on the same tires as well. There's no reason to drive out.
Try to keep the wear down through each corner. Be especially careful accelerating a corner exit.
So this program, yeah, as you just heard, it's about the tires, managing the tires. And it's only 3 laps instead of 5 laps like the previous one. Tires below 119 degrees. I never actually paid attention to that when I was playing. To be honest, most of these you can just kind of race normally. In some tracks you literally don't have to do anything, and you do get to nice tire wear. Sometimes with the fuel one as well, but there are some tracks that you have to be careful. In the races though, because only you do 5 laps, it's never really a problem. But you can change the degradation settings, and there are a lot of settings that you can mess around with that will definitely make your hards, your racing a lot tougher and a lot more realistic as well. For the hardcore fans, there's definitely a lot to do. I mean, it's not a breakthrough F1 game. There's really nothing that amazing that came out with it this year. But it's still a pretty good game. Just one of those titles that come year after year after year, and going off the track a little bit there. And some people do buy them every year, like I used to do with FIFAs back in the day, but eventually we all grow out of it and just play, you know, once every few seasons. You know, started using a little bit of deck there, but it's so good. We just need 1 lap where we are in the purple. That shouldn't be hard to do. So we've the temperature and the managed tire wear. The racing line, like I said on the last one, that's not going to happen. It's quite unfortunate actually. This weekend we have both training sessions of our training programs. Oh, that's a lot of smoke. They require the racing line one, but that's fine, it's no biggie. We'll use the autopilot to do it later on. So this is what happens when your car is losing power and you are on a red. During the race you actually get warnings from the engineer, but I hardly ever get warnings anywhere else, like in practice. But I can see we are smoking a lot, our car is in bad shape, and Russell is catching up to us. Plus our driving isn't exactly helping, but we're trying to get to the purple and hopefully stay there. But I don't really want Russell to go through either, because he might slow us down in some parts of the racetrack. Like in a corner especially. He'll be faster than us on a straight because the car's got more power than ours. We're clutching straws here. And he gets the slipstream as well. Thankfully he's decided not to go for the slipstream for some reason. But he's still got more power than us. Oh boy. We don't really want that. But we should be, brake ourselves a little bit. But we should be in a purple, so that should clear. It was too slow unfortunately, because our car is pretty messed up. But we did get low tire wear. Let's see if we can do any better on this one. We're just about within the delta time, but yeah, it was a bit later on that we messed up on a previous lap. So this shouldn't really be an issue, but because I've got such worn out parts in the car, we're losing time there a lot, even though no huge mistakes at all really. We just gotta try not to make mistakes, and we should be able to make the time back. Like in this corner we've made the time back, not by much, but if we keep that going. And we're starting to lose again. Yeah, with a normal car, even with just in orange condition rather than red, you'll be fine. But most of the car now is in orange condition, which gives us a little red there at the bottom. The actual parts aren't red yet, as we can see. Probably when I change the parts we'll see that. Like this is one of the corners that actually annoyed me in the race, because the braking assist is on, which I didn't have originally when I played on the PS4, but I put it on a 5 just to help out, stopping me from out braking myself all the time. And we got to the bloody red there at the end. Not great.
Okay, practice program over. That's all we need for now. So
yeah, on some corners where you can go flat out,
as soon as you can.
The game won't let you go flat out. That's why I hate assists like that, and traction control as well. I know it might be hard to get used to, but once you do get used to it, you're so much faster without those assists on. Also, as I've said, I don't play enough to get used to. That is where the problem comes in. Right, going on to the second, not to the third practice program of the weekend, and this is 3 laps again, I believe.
In this program we're looking at ERS management. This is all about managing your battery efficiently through the lap to hit your target time.
Okay, so
the
yeah,
button will drain the battery quickly, but it will also give you maximum power.
maximum power indeed. So we'll show you what not to do, and we've got now a countdown on top of the session, so 5 minutes to finish, which should be enough for us to do the 3 laps. Button, it's going to be used a lot. I believe I'm going to show you what happens if you do keep the overtake button on for too long, and then we'll have like a normal lap. I'm quite happy that the lap time requested is 1:42. That should be pretty doable, even with the car this damaged. So here I left the power on. Obviously, you know, don't do that. But see, this is what happens to your power if you don't disable yeah, you're getting more power, but like bits like here, why you need more power, you're going through corners, so there's no point in using that. Yes, you can use it at the exit of the corner, as you probably should, but not breaking into corners. And obviously you're just wasting all your power, like for the sake of the program, we're all on red now, and there's literally no way back from that, because you just use everything. During the race, I do have this on auto, but for people playing on manual, especially if you're playing online, or you know, you're really competing either against other people, or you're doing it against the game, you should manage that button carefully to optimize it. And yeah, he just told us that don't use it quite so much. Yeah, indeed. Don't have it all the way through the bloody lap. Great start to the lap here, where we go a little, what is it, off-roading. I was rally crossing, that was the word I was looking for. Right, it's all, it's only 200, that's okay, we will catch that up, I believe. Nicely done. A bit too wide there, but yeah, that's fine. I think I actually got this one, this training program spot on, despite wasting lap number 2 on purpose. Pretty good. I don't know if I used, no, I didn't use it here, just to make sure I stayed in the purple. Lost too much time in that corner, shouldn't, but silly. The famous chicane. Well, I was at lap number 1, not lap number 2.
Test complete, and that was a really good job indeed. We got a lot of valuable information out of that. Well done.
So we've only got in both laps.
30 seconds left in the session.
We managed to do what we needed, 3 laps, what we had 3 laps allocated to. That does happen with some of the programs. And yeah, we just got those 30 seconds to the end and skipped forward to the very end. And that's the practice session finished. So I didn't jump to the garage, I just literally went around the lap after the 3rd lap. And this is how you went to the garage. During the race there are different options to actually enter the pit. Well, not into the pit, but to enter the garage bit. So when you actually pit during the race, there's a few manual options that you can add to either help you gain time or lose time if you do mess it up. I do only 5 laps races, so I don't have to go to the pit. For people that do longer races and have it enabled, then it's. I did do some races like that on a PS4 with my mate, and it is quite fun to get it right. Quite annoying to get it wrong. And we get some actual XP here because we did some racing. And that is the first practice session of the Suzuka Grand Prix done. That's the typical battle pass stuff,
Cox, Russell, and Lando Norris.
which you don't get anything for free.
Practice is officially over. Until next time, goodbye.
StonnyMc as usual when I'm using females on games these days. And here we go to practice 2. And for practice 2 and practice 3, if need be, I don't actually go on track. So rivalry, which I think it finishes this weekend. So we'll go to quick practice as we enter the session. So that means that we don't actually get the option to go on track. We just get to choose what our driver does, our imaginary driver. So yeah, we did actually finish the 3rd one. On the other ones we were missing some. So we're missing only one here. This is 70%. This is what I always do. You get it right most of the time, but sometimes it does fail. I mean, it is 70% chance, so it is not guaranteed that you'll get. So that's 5 out of 5, and this one we're only at 3 out of 5. So we need a couple of points from somewhere, and unfortunately we failed this one, which, like I said before, yeah, it is 70%, but you can still get it wrong. And then here 8, we got that one, but we still need to get another one right. We've only got time for that. 25% is a high chance of failing, so there you go. So that means we have to go to free practice 3 just to finish that off, which is not really a biggie. That's, you know, it is what it is. That's what it's there for, as far as I'm concerned. And here we are, final practice session. Here we go to next, and again we do the same. Go to quick practice. This should be done in one go, 70% chance, and it's also short time as well. So even if we did get that wrong, we had plenty of chance to do it. And that is it. So 22 minutes left, but there's nothing we can do because we've got everything unlocked. We just gotta click end session. And that will take us to the qualifying. So this is, you know, your team's results. So you against your teammate, or you with your teammate rather. And this is the stuff that we've unlocked. We get all that, so that means we get some discounts on other stuff. And that's the parts that you need to upgrade throughout the season. So it is nice to get them cheaper and cheaper. But as I said at the beginning, it doesn't look like I'm going to be upgrading anything else this season because I've got those parts to adapt. But maybe last 2 races potentially I'll have some points to invest again. Obviously my claim a lot higher because, you know, I'm winning races, I'm towards the front, and he's useless, he's at the back. The only reason I've got him in the team is because he was the cheapest at the time, because I wanted all the money for me. But technically I'm actually spending all the money on him, on making him better. I've spent about over 10 million on him. So now we change the parts. So we got to the good parts because we've got qualifying coming up, and we don't want to do the same mistake that I did on the last race, which is race with the bad parts. Here I was like unsure because, you know, the second one is still absolutely fine. So I could leave number 2 part there, or I could go for 3, and I really couldn't make my mind up. And here we obviously got to the third one because that's the only one in good condition. And here, so basically once you've used the last allocated, so those parts there on screen are the ones that you're allowed to use in a season, for anyone that's not familiar with Formula 1. And if you go over that, yes, you can still fit new parts in a car, but you will be penalized. I believe the penalties are starting from the back of the grid. I don't know if they have finance, you know, monetary penalties in the game or not. But that's obviously something you want to avoid because you don't want to be starting from the back of the grid, especially when you're doing 5-lap races, because you're just stuck. You can't overtake that many. So we gain some more points thanks to our performance doing those training programs, and we can protect a few more parts here. And wheel rim covers, fantastic. We've got 355 left. We got like more points from the session than we had from the previous race. Interesting. We've got 80. I doubt we can get anything from 80 points. I've never seen anything for 80 points. But I believe here, because you're only adapting parts, they're much cheaper, so I actually get to use 77 points. So we're down to 3 points. That is the least points I've ever had in a game, apart from when you actually start, because you start at 0. That is crazy. So we don't have much left to protect, actually. Upgrade complete. Nice. So yeah, we'll be able to develop some more parts before the end of the season, which we don't need because we're kind of falling behind the other teams in development. Maybe it depends on what part of what section you're looking at, kind of thing. Because some might be developing faster than you in aerodynamics, but not on other parts. So. You always get emails like this before qualifying and before the race from your engineer or, you know, whoever, just giving you some tips or just, you know, trying to encourage you or whatever. The qualifying is always one shot from what I've seen, which is weird. I mean, it's not that I will take any other option, but... And you can rewind if you screw up on the laps, or during the lap you can rewind, as long as you've got those, you know, functions enabled, of course, because you can disable them, and it means if you screw up, you screw up. Which is the way the games should be. They shouldn't give you those options. I am against them, but if they're there, I use them, like I did in Forza as well. I'd be very happy to repeat races if those options weren't there, but if you put the options there, then I will use it. I'm just gonna make it easier for me and less rewarding. That's what it comes down to. We already knew it was sunny, but just to show you really the kind of screens that you can see. And you see, we're all green there, so our parts are installed. Not racing with the dodgy old ones. Try not to mess this lap too much, but I did mess it up big time there. In some tracks that will be enough to get me out of pole position. This one, you do have these bits here where I've always been gaining a lot of time in practice sessions, so it should still be fine. Also, if you're playing at higher difficulty, it's a slightly different story, because you'll have to be faster, because they will be faster. And here we're just barely staying away ahead of that Ferrari. We've got a better exit of the corner. I'm pretty sure that Ferrari is the second fastest, or the fastest at the moment, because that's usually how the game works out. When you start doing the lap, the person next to you is the next one that you can beat, and if there's nobody in front of you and they're behind you, then that's the fastest car on that the AI kind of has going on. Probably not the best way to explain it, but maybe you'll understand, maybe not. So as long as we are ahead of the red and we see nothing in front of us, that means we should be in pole position. I think that's kind of how it works. And we actually open up quite a bit of a gap there at the end.
Fantastic, you've got pole position.
Indeed. Which is expected. The only race that I can't get pole position on is Monaco. But even that, I can try enough laps or rewind enough times during the lap to get it as perfect as possible. And you can still do it.
Cox, Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz.
But you can always make the difficulty easier, or you can make it harder. You've got a huge difficulty slider, really, and I'm at not the lowest, but far closer to the lowest than I am even from the middle. So as you get better, as your car gets better, you can always increase the difficulty. And people shouldn't whine too much about the... Well, they shouldn't whine at all about the difficulty in this game, because you just have such an option. So one race to go, but we've just won it. We haven't even gotten to the race. We won the real rivalry against Leclerc. There'll be a bit more about rivalries later on, after the Grand Prix weekend. We'll just worry about the race and stuff for now, and then we'll have a look at some other bits later on. This will be a long video. It already is a long video. If you've made it this far, don't forget to leave a like, and yeah, leave a comment. Let us know what you think of the game, and if I should bother uploading any more footage of this game. Maybe
Welcome
some
along
Grand
then to the
Prix.
magnificent Suzuka International Circuit, a stone's throw away from Issei Bay in the beautiful Japanese countryside. What surprises lie in wait for us today in the Japanese Grand Prix? 18 corners make up a lap of the incredible figure of 8 Suzuka circuit, with 10 to the right and 8 to the left for a distance of 3.6 miles. Average lap speeds around here are fairly quick, and if it stays dry, expect it somewhere in the region of 136 miles per hour.
Yeah, some crazy fast corners there.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, It's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Cox lines up on pole position, Charles Leclerc alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Norris, Max Verstappen and Russell, Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Perez and Daniel Ricciardo, Gasly, Vettel, Valtteri Bottas and Ocon, Albon, Stroll, Kevin Magnussen and Yuki Tsunoda, Joe, Mick Schumacher, Latifi and Ralph Boschung. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations
Our
are
teammate,
underway.
usually the last one.
Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you here with us today. But I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the run down into turn one, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Okay, we've got 5 races till the end of the season, and we're still in with a chance of taking the Constructors' Championship. Good luck.
Oh, that's not happening. We'd only miss scoring points. That's not an option for this year. Maybe not even next year. I definitely need a teammate that gets into the points for us to stand a chance. I mean, yes, if Ferrari messes up badly and Mercedes, there is technically a chance. But the start is something I usually screw up, and it was no different here. I just can never get it right. Well, not never. I've had, I think, 2 or 3 good starts where I didn't lose places, or maybe I lost a place, I'm getting it right back, or actually, yeah, didn't lose places into the first corner. Most of the time, I lose 2 to 3 places. I was pretty amazed to see Norris here, though. So the way I started, people behind me must have really gotten, well, messed up because of me, and Norris would have found a way to get through. And I wasn't a fan of letting Russell go through here, so I went for it, because I don't want to be stuck behind anybody else through this fast bit. I want to get into a rhythm so I can focus on taking out, sorry, not taking out, on taking Norris on, and then hopefully Leclerc. Because even on the easier difficulties, yeah, and the braking is actually not hard to overtake, but it's not, compared to Formula 1 games that I played years ago. I do like the level of difficulty here. And this is, yeah, I'm playing on easy difficulty, and I'm obviously a noob, and I'm playing on controller. But I think it's challenging enough. You don't want the game to be too easy, you don't want to set it too easy. And here, try the overtake. Hopefully not crash. Don't spin out, and we can focus on Leclerc now. So, yeah, you don't want to get it too easy, because you don't want to start in first place, or just get to first place on the first corner and just, you know, have 5 laps by yourself. You know, there's no fun in that. So at least this way, I always mess up the starts, so I know I'm gonna have fights in some racetracks, some proper fights, like I had in Spain, and I actually had recorded that footage that was on my dead drive. I was stuck behind Hamilton, kind of like I am here behind Leclerc, and it took me a few laps to get through, because I couldn't get the speed to overtake in the braking zones, and then I was just stuck behind on the fast bits. So I think this kind of works for the moment. If I do play more and more, then I'll have to increase the difficulty or take assists out, because the more you practice, like everything in life, or at least it should be, you just get better at it. The run here probably went wide, actually not too bad this time. Thought it would have been worse. I didn't mess up this corner. Oh yes, I remember that. So I had to use the flashback feature, and I wasn't focused there. I got out of the flashback too early and nearly crashed. If I had crashed at that point, if you crash right after using a flashback, you are screwed, because then you start from the crashing position. I've had that happen to me, I think once or twice. I really messed up on a flashback, and then nearly did it there again. Going wide there, but this is fine. Just stay close. Too far back to even try to have a go. But if we didn't have these flashback options, and you can disable them, my race would have ended right there.
DRS will be enabled this lap. You can use it when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone.
I have DRS, but I hardly ever get to use DRS in races. It's hardly ever useful to me. And here we screw up big time again. So I had to restart again. Well, not restart, I used a flashback again. And I think that's the only 2 times, I'm not sure, that I used it. I'm not sure if I end up using it again. Which, to be fair, when I'm pushing in a race, it's usually about right. I end up using it 2 to 3 times during a race. I think it was something similar in Forza 5 as well. If I just get to the front, then racing with a clear track in front of me, I don't normally make mistakes. I don't have to use flashbacks. But if I'm behind drivers, I don't know why, I just have far more chances of messing up a corner when I'm following a car. Not just because of the dirty air, just because I lose focus. I focus on a car instead of the racetrack. Which you'd think with the many years of racing in games I would have overtaken that at this point. But apparently not. Although, to be fair, not playing racing games for a long time certainly didn't help. Need to really, I think it was right here, I really had to focus because I was losing time to Leclerc. He was just getting away from me. That's an issue I also have in games in general, but racing is even more so. Is when I lose focus, I go AWire for a while. I'm not there. I need to really reconcentrate again. Reconcentrate again? You know what I mean. To really get the foot down, get focused on what I'm doing. And this was it. This was me trying. Okay, I really need to get this right. You're going off a little bit, but not messing it up. Going wide, really not happy with that. So Leclerc starts to push away, but this corner, again, we take it wide, but we can gain time taking it wide. And this one, you can't really. I messed that up, and I was really annoyed at this point. I just had to go for it. Nicely done here. And I actually got a chance and managed to overtake here. Which is an overtaking position, so long as you can get glued to the car behind and then just pull out there into the braking zone. But it is hard to stay behind him during those fast corners. Just gotta concentrate really, which is often my problem. And from here on out we should be fine. I might not pull away because they might be faster than me. And they'll get the RS. But I don't see them overtaking. Not on this type of straights. If we had longer straights, then they will overtake you. They absolutely will overtake you. But here it's hard to get glued behind somebody. After that chicane, so as you're coming down. And then this is not a hard braking zone. So you really don't take advantage of the DRS here. And that's one of the things about DRS in Suzuka in general. You don't have the typical big straights to hard braking zone to use DRS the best. Because on both cases, here and at the back straight, you're a little limited. You really need a proper time advantage or performance advantage to make it work. But otherwise, yeah, it's an amazing track. Probably not the best for Formula 1. I prefer Super GT here and other car classes than Formula 1. Just because of the difficulty in overtaking due to the air. I still love this track though. Probably always will. Going a little too wide here. don't think I got any track limit warnings in this race though. I do have them enabled. On the last race, was it the next race? No, I think the last race I got some. Some of the most difficult tracks I do get warnings a couple of times. I remember at the beginning when I was playing on a PS4, I did actually get penalties when I was racing with my mate. So that was fun. And here we are at the end.
9 race wins in a row. Wow, we are speechless here on the pit wall. Enjoy this result.
Yeah, only because I'm playing on easy. I did lose a Monaco and I did lose a Jeddah. And if it wasn't for the flashbacks, I would have lost a few more.
Championship as well. What a spectacular season they've had, and congratulations to the whole team.
The car looking a little dirty,
So,
but not too
Anthony,
bad.
what made the difference out there today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
Here comes your top 3, making their way down to the podium for what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula 1.
And there we are. My transgender self is on a podium. Yay! And we're world champions as well. But it might take us a couple of years to actually get the constructors. Those AI, like those people, your mechanics and that, they're all the same regardless of whatever team you got. It's all the same haircut, the same skin color, the same face design. There's just literally changes the clothing. It's really weird. You think on PS5, this is 2022. I don't know what I unlocked there or what I got points from, but this is
Some
the.
amazing talent out there on track today, but Anthony,
pass
who
again?
would you pick as your driver of the day?
I have to give it to Cox. That was a commanding performance today. Very impressive indeed.
Let's move on to the constructors. Ferrari continued to extend the gap at the top of the table. Well, what an end to another
Well, they didn't
fantastic
actually.
weekend of racing.
That's the thing.
Thanks to everyone who's joined us, and we'll see you for the next
The
one.
commentary in this game has got quite a lot wrong with it. Like Ferrari actually lost time here. Lost points to me. Dun, dun. But the commentators don't realize that. Also, the game seems to have an issue with Aston Martin. I haven't heard it recently, but I know throughout my playthrough on PS4, and I did over half a season, the commentators will always say, well done to Aston Martin for increasing their points this season, and I did over half a season and they had no points at all. Just like here, Aston Martin doesn't get points in F1 2022. The game, the developers really hate them, even though Aston Martin is a British team and this is a British developer, Codemasters. But anyway, yes. So we're only 7 points behind Ferrari, but I'm not counting on winning the constructors because it's just all those points are mine. I don't. If I had my mate helping me with some points, maybe, but even then Ferrari would need a disaster. I don't see that happening. But fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But yeah, the game does have some little issues like that where you'd expect better this generation. Not kidding, the commentating in Formula 1 1998 was actually better than this. By a long shot. You'll hear all the driver, you'll hear the commentator talking about all the drivers and overtakes and stuff like that. And here there's nothing. There's the engineer talking to you, and let's say there's a few options that you can use to ask for information from your engineer. Some of them don't seem to even work. Maybe because I'm on 5 laps only. Like you ask for information, but it doesn't actually give it to you. So it's not really impressive on that when you really look at it. All these years on, and things haven't really moved all that much. You do have an option of different commentators, which is kind of nice. But yeah, those bits aren't the most immersive in this game. Quite the opposite, actually. When you get to the end of the race and you hear something that's quite literally in front of you, being one thing, and the commentator is saying the opposite. And here you can see some of the different options. So this is the corporate part where you got the sponsorships. At level 25 I get to unlock my 4th one. I just auto-renewed these guys, and I believe they were the right ones. At one point I had a sponsorship, a sponsor that only worked on rivalries. I believe I got rid of that because yeah, when you don't have any rivalries activated, then you don't get that bonus. So that's really annoying. And there will be times where you don't have a rivalry, like when you just finish one before you start the next. These are facilities. So this is the parts that me as a team owner can upgrade. Like on the aerodynamics part here, you go fabrication, build time, quality control, and resource point generation. Something that I would like to spend on to get more points, but just you do things over time. You've got the chassis, again the usual, the max number of upgrades, the speed of the upgrades, and the quality failure, and then how many points you can get. And here on personnel, this is the one that I've been putting most of my money on, if nearly all my money on. The second driver space, so I've upgraded level 1 and to level 2. The fitness center, level 1 and level 2, to increase their racecraft, their experience, and whatever. And this one up to level 1. I haven't touched the pit equipment because we don't do pits. Since I only do 5 lap races, so I'm ignoring that. But those ones I've wasted several millions. And the next upgrade, you see, one is 15 million and the other one is 10 million. And that's my 2 next upgrades in the game, just to make my driver a little bit better. Is it going to be enough for him to be in the points? I don't think so. I've got a feeling they will not be enough. Because the improvements so far from level 1 and level 2 changed nothing. He's still in last place. He's not even fighting with Latifi. Even though you look at its standings, he actually says he's ahead of Latifi, but he's always behind him pretty much in the races. Maybe there's been 1 or 2 that he did finish ahead, but still no points or anything like that. To get to the points, I'm gonna need, I don't know what, to be honest. So durability here the same as the other ones, the quality of your stuff, and the rate at which you can succeed, and by your stuff I mean the upgrades, and the resource point generation as usual. This one I'd like to invest on as well, gets more acclaim, that will definitely be useful. And positive effects from team, that for the morale and stuff, I don't care much about it. But if you're doing like a proper championship where things are tough and maybe you're not doing so well, this is something that would help your team's morale, especially the departments, and that would help with developing your upgrades, things like that. There is a lot of things that you can do here, and I hope to explore at least most of them before I stop playing the game. So your contracts, that's our driver. He started at 600,000, now he's 1.5 million market value, but I'm sticking with them. You'll renew. It's a bit weird. This is my scores during the season. The contract works like you can only renew him for 11 weeks. I thought you'd renew him, get a contract for the whole season, but apparently it's only 11 weeks at a time, which is weird because then you have to negotiate contract 2 times a season, maybe even a 3rd time, 22 races. Yeah, 2 times a season I would say, which is mad. So for the beginning of the next season I'm gonna have the choice again to get him renewed. So this is the rivalry. We just finished the one with Leclerc, so we don't have one going on at the moment. We'll hopefully get one pretty soon. So yeah, I don't know if I will keep with them just because I want to see how you can really develop a driver. I want to see that option and see how that pans out. But if you're just working to try and get as much money in a team as you can to develop your departments, you can just change contract. It's just like get a new guy all the time. Yes, that means you'll have less team acclaim and stuff like that, but it's, you do have options. You can play the game however you want it in that sense, and I do like those options. That's something that I definitely missed from the ones that I played years ago. So the game has evolved. Here are some of the drivers that you can get, including those legends, Schumacher, Ayrton Senna, Alan Prost, which I would love to race with them at one point. Jenson Button. So the other 3 were gold tier kind of thing. Jenson is a silver tier. and I love Jensen. I wouldn't mind having him in my team at all. And then you've got Coulter and Massa. I don't know if they add drivers through here throughout the season, which I think they do. Because I don't think all these drivers were there at the beginning, but maybe I'm wrong. So a lot of these drivers are from F2. And you can see the prices, you know, how much you can get them for. So, you know, I'm paying mine over $1 million, and I could go back to get one of these guys. But it's okay for now, it's okay. And so now I'll be getting, well, so now level 16, I need to get to 25 to get more sponsors. I don't really pay much attention to this stuff, but as long as the green number is bigger than the red number, I think I'm doing alright, and that's what I'm going with. There was one point that as you can see there, in August, I really hit rock bottom in terms of money. Luckily, I did a decent score at Monaco, and then after that I had to renew contract. Otherwise I will not have money to renew my driver's contract, which that would have been interesting. Apparently there's an invisible driver that I will have racing for me if I couldn't get anybody to sign. So maybe that's an option to explore another day actually and see how. I'm the team owner and I don't know who my invisible driver is, so that is a bit weird, but also quite funny. And here, as you try out different sponsors, you gain the option to add them to your car. So I've only had 4 different sponsors so far, so that's why I've only got 4 there. So that is kind of cool. Yes, you can't really edit a lot, but I don't care because I'm not gonna edit all that much. And you do have, you know, the main parts of the car where you can put the sponsor, so it's not amazing, but it's not bad either. It's not terrible, far from it. I think I did end up putting putting one there, Equinox. Changing the color, just so you get an idea for things that you can do in the game. It's not that I particularly will put this on a normal video, but I'll trying to give you as much of an idea of what the game is like within this rather long video. Definitely a lot of stuff that I haven't touched on, and I could probably touch on like specific 20-minute video. But since I wanted to show the actual racing weekend, which I think is the most important bit, because this is a racing game after all. Nobody's buying Formula 1 for these small features and contracts rather than the racing, right? We buy the game because we want to race the cars. Yeah, sometimes changes to the career mode and things like that to incline people to get the game, but again, they're getting it to race. So these ones here on the left with the yellow bits, they are the new items. I got them just before I started recording. I got them before the last race when I logged in, and I had 4 days left to redeem them. I don't know why we got them, because it's been, I don't know, it's like I said, about 3 weeks since I last played the game, so I don't know why we get them. I don't know why they were given for free. London Norris. Strange. They're kind of nice, but they don't show the sponsors, those fancy new ones, apart from one of them, so though I like some of their designs, can't say I'm a fan of them if I can't have my sponsors on it. And you've got the same with the clothing and emotes, so you can change the colors of your helmet, outfit, gloves, you know, the body pose and the podium stuff. You don't get a shit ton of options, but you do have some options. They are limited, but as I said, we're not getting the game for that. Progress history, I think we're the worst team. Everyone is increasing and we're not really. Assuming that orange is the orange that I know. We've had some bits, but we're still winning, that's fine. And we can always decrease the difficulty if we start losing. No, I shouldn't need to do that. The R&D progress thing there, which I never really pay attention to that bit. I just go straight into R&D and choose what I want to increase, develop. I need to level up those facilities. That will be very expensive, so maybe next season, I don't know.
You're not currently in a rivalry. Sooner or later, you'll probably be asked by the media who you consider to be your rival. Think carefully who you select. As while you'll receive acclaim for beating them, you'll lose acclaim if you fail to do so.
Okay, so for him to say that, that means it's going to be pretty soon. Yeah. I had forgotten about this. So it was literally between one race with the other. I never had any rivalry starting this fast after finishing one. But I think it's because we finished a rivalry before the race. We finished a rivalry at the qualifying. If it had been after the race, maybe we wouldn't have this option already. And I think I'll go for Max Verstappen, to be honest. Also because the game, for some reason, on the PlayStation 4 when I started doing the season, Max Verstappen was the toughest racer. He was very aggressive, and he will be normally there at the front or second place if you were in first. That was him. And the odd race, Hamilton will be the one at that. When doing this career mode, maybe the first couple of races or so, Verstappen was there or thereabouts, like up until Jeddah. And then he's nowhere to be seen, like we saw on the last race. He was like qualifying 5th or whatever and finished even lower than that or around that. It's weird. So before every weekend, we've got events like this. You get to choose between 2 events. Could be drift, could be time attack, could be rallycross. Though it's not really rallycross, it's just, you know, there's weird invisible gates on the track that you need to reach them. And you do this with actual road cars, which you do have access to the game as well. You can do some time trials with them. And here we've got, so United States Grand Prix, and we've got the Mercedes AMG GT-R Pro. And they actually drive pretty well. I do actually love driving these road cars. Codemasters obviously know what they're doing in racing games. They've been doing this for years, not just for the Formula 1 games. And these cars feel pretty good. I almost feel like Codemasters should make a game to rival Gran Turismo and Forza, but have it out on both platforms, because, you know, they're third party, they're not owned by either of them. They're owned by EA these days, actually. So I think that will be something nice to see, but I don't know if they have the teams to do that, between doing Formula 1 and some other games they do. I don't know if the racing, was it WRC or something else they used to have? Because I do really like the feeling of these cars in most of these tracks. Because they feel very different than the F1 cars. Obviously, you know, they've really done a good job at telling you the difference. These cars are still quick. You're still, you know, going over 60 miles an hour on some corners, getting real high speeds, but they're also much heavier than Formula 1 cars, and you really do get to experience the difference here. And for anyone that's raced like Forza, Gran Turismo, and you get these cars, you do get the feeling that it's nicely made. And this is one of the longest events, where you have to do 2 laps, and this track isn't exactly the shortest. You can see our target's time there for gold, the 5:15. So we're going to be around that. So yeah, don't screw up, basically. Because a few screw ups then will add at the end of the race, and you want to be getting to 5 minutes 16. You missed the gold, and you know, you just wasted 5 minutes. You have to redo everything again, like restart the event if you want to improve. So I try to take these often even more seriously than I will take an actual F1 race, because here you have to restart the thing if you mess up. You can probably, yeah, you can use the flashback here, I'm sure. I never use that, but to be honest, I hardly ever need to. But if you go like off the track, you get disqualified. Once disqualified appears on screen, you can't use flashback, I don't think. At least it didn't work when I tried. A little too high there. And I just like road cars and sports cars more than I like Formula 1 cars in general. So I really like these bits. The drift ones are probably the easiest. You don't actually have to be good at drifting or anything, because I am terrible at drifting. I like watching drifting, but I don't actually like being involved in it. But here you just go from one side to the track to the other, and as long as you don't crash or get turned all the way you turn, you get to keep the points. So it's that easy. It's arguably, at least for me, easier than any of these, even though I do find these easy as long as you don't make mistakes. The drifting, you can afford to make mistakes. So you got warning there for track limits. You don't want to do that too many times because you'll be disqualified. I don't know if it's like 2 or 3 times before you get disqualified. Best thing to do is never do it. But you know, sometimes you'll misjudge a corner, or you know, misjudge the entry and do get it. But once you get the warning, whether it's on these events or the race, then you should try your best not to do them again. 130 miles an hour. Really nice sound as well. Don't know how accurate it is to real life or not, because I haven't driven one of these cars in real life, but it does sound nice. And here we get to, what's the top speed here? 160. Yep, 161 miles an hour before we have to brake. Really hard. The assists do count here as well, so the braking assist that I've got for the F1 events, they are also in place here, and they actually often prove to be more useful here than the F1. Though they were very useful at the beginning. Just now, obviously, after doing nearly a full season and plus alpha season on a PlayStation 4, I feel like those assists, I should be removing them. And I'm champion now as well, so yes, I'm, back of my head there is a tiny chance that I might get the constructors, even though it's pretty unlikely. I can really afford to get rid of those assists. But either way, next season they won't be there. And who knows, maybe when I get my internet, maybe I'll do some streams of this game, just like, the evening for an hour or so. At most I do 2 races in an evening after work. Normally I'd be lucky if I log in to do 1 race. And then it's time to go to bed, pretty much. So yeah, I'll have to wait until I get the new internet, which probably that's the only time I will upload this video, because I can't upload this with my 4G. that will use all the data. Anyway guys, I hope you did enjoy, and this is pretty much what the game is like. I know there's a lot I didn't cover, but this is my typical Formula 1 weekend in a game. So when you see me playing the game, this is probably what I'm doing. And yeah, thank you all for watching. You all take care, and we'll see you on the next one, whenever that may be, and whatever game that may be. Take care, and all the best.